Well, hello, guys. Contrary to what I put on the stream when I scheduled it before my coffee, we're not going live at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or whatever I scheduled it for. We're going live now. We're going live now. My bad. I scheduled the stream for the wrong time. I was scheduling it quickly. I had to take a shower. I had to put makeup on, all that stuff. So I'm gonna give people a second to kind of like file in. But we've got some celebrating to do, folks. Cheers to you. Now, this stream is not going to replace happy hour. We're still doing happy hour at 3 o'clock. I gotta go to the beer store. I gotta get some good stuff. But we have got some things to celebrate this morning. I'm feeling good. Are you guys feeling good? How is everyone this morning? Cheers. Mouth that like button. I've barely had coffee. I was up early this morning because I got a secret Zoom link to attend a corporate anti-racism meeting. And so I was like logging in covertly, undercover, in the dark of night or the dark of morning. That's what I spent my morning doing. I watched a secret corporate anti-racism presentation that one of my spies gave me the link to. Sadly, there was nothing like earth-shattering about this presentation, but there could have been, and that's why you get up early. That's why you get up early. No, it is not happy hour already. We're still going to be doing happy hour at 3 p.m. Don't worry. But I have some news. So, you guys know, last night I did a stream about going to the school board meeting again and not getting arrested. Thank God. But I talked about a tactic that, not just me, but like other people have been playing with in terms of making tyrants feel uncomfortable, getting in their heads. And, some people on the internet didn't like that. They didn't like that. They thought it was so uncouth. But the fact of the matter is, the tactic worked because we found out this morning. Wait for it. I have to get the right screen up. We found out this morning that the superintendent of the school resigned, effective immediately. That's good news, folks. That's good news. So in this stream, I'm just going to give everyone an update. If you missed last night's stream, that's cool. It was a late night impromptu stream. I'm going to bring everyone up to speed on what happened, where we are. And then I'm going to talk about, to be honest, guys, like, after last night, I really do not believe that conservatives understand the monster they're fighting. Now, I actually don't say that as I'm not saying that to drag conservatives in this particular case. I'm really not. I actually think it is imperative that conservatives understand the monster that they're fighting. And if they don't understand the monster they're fighting, it's because people like me have done a really bad job in explaining it. And so I will actually take responsibility for that. I will take responsibility for the fact that I have not done as good of a job as I could have in terms of expressly explaining to conservatives the monster that they're fighting. But last night for me, it was crystal clear that they do not understand. And so we're going to have a conversation about that, and a conversation about tactics, and a conversation about how I believe we can actually make progress in terms of fighting back in ways that make sense. But before we do that, we're going to celebrate the fact that this superintendent resigned. Hopefully the chairman of the school board is next. Because what this school did, my going to these school board meetings, it started because I was supporting people. I was supporting like the chairman of the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire, who got arrested at the school board meeting for not wearing a mask. That's how this started. But then we found out a couple pieces of information in the last couple of weeks. It has come out that this school did not tell parents that not one, but two teachers were caught inappropriately engaging with students. And they also did not tell parents of the potential of an active shooter when they were dropping their kids off at school. I'm sorry. There is no excuse for this behavior. These are two of probably the worst things that any school can execute. They covered up legitimate pedophilia, did not tell the parents about it. The parents had to figure it out on their own. And they allowed parents to drop their children off at school when there could have been an active shooter that they knew about and they didn't tell the parents about it. So far as I'm concerned, in situations like this, you can get right up close to the line. You can get very, very, very close to the line. And in this case, I do think it worked. Now, this did not come from, I want to be very clear. Like a lot of people saying, way to go, Carlin. No. I don't think that this is me. I don't think that this is me. No, I'm not taking credit for this. This is not like my doing. This is a lot of people. This is a lot of different factors. But in situations like this, I do think that it's okay to get closer to the line. I really do. Because the school board and the school leadership have demonstrated that they don't give an F. They've demonstrated that. And this is a good thing, guys. This is the result. This is the result that we all should be seeking. To get these people to effing resign. That's the point. The point is to get these people to resign. The point is to get the bad people out of positions of power. James Lindsay has been talking about this for a while. If you are not actively working to get toxic people out of positions of power, then what are you doing? Then what are you doing? I shouldn't yell at you guys. It's too early. It's too early. But man, did the internet have a problem with the tactics? So, to bring everyone up to speed. And again, this is not even something I'll take credit for. I'm not taking credit for this. I am simply like, I did not come up with this idea. I'm not trying to take credit in any way. I'm not trying to speak for anyone else. But sometimes I think it's okay to make really bad people feel uncomfortable. At least just as uncomfortable as the children that the teachers in that school were molesting. At least as uncomfortable as that. And so we went to the school board meeting last night, and there were some fiery speeches. We're gonna watch at least one of the speeches, if not a couple. I think I have a couple speeches we can watch if you guys want. The speeches were great, but the school board during one of the speeches tried to shut down a parent from speaking. They said, "Please don't use that language. Decorum." Again, this is after they had actively failed to notify parents of an active shooter like earlier in the week and allowed their parents to drop their kids off at the school. And all of a sudden they want decorum. So we yelled some stuff from the peanut gallery, and I may have yelled, "We know where you live." And I have no regrets about this. This wasn't even the first time that was yelled at one of these school board meetings. It was yelled 2 weeks ago. Now, I want to be perfectly clear. I actually don't know what their addresses are. I have no idea. I lied. But I could damn well find out if I wanted to, because they're publicly elected officials and it is public information, and staying a statement of fact, articulating that we could find this out if we wanted to, is getting close to the line, but it's not actually crossing it. It's not actually doxing. No one got doxed. Literally no one got doxed. And to be quite frank, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about showing up at people's houses. I don't think it's a good idea necessarily. I could be convinced in extreme circumstances otherwise, but generally speaking, I'm actually, like, not really on board with that. I don't know, but everyone has to do what they think is best, and I do think that as long as people are not engaging in violence or destruction or breaking the law, then I am actually perfectly comfortable with experimenting with different tactics that might make bad people feel extremely uncomfortable. But the quartering didn't like that. The quartering didn't like that. Did you guys see this? Check this out. Hang on, I want to make sure I have the correct screen up. The quartering didn't like that. And he denounced me. He disavowed me on Twitter. Because, okay, we were having a little playful back and forth, and what happened? Here it is. They shut down the public meeting. When I yelled, "We know where you live," they shut down the public meeting, and I tweeted that they shut down the public meeting. Sean asked why. He's a member of the LPNH. I said, because I yelled, "You know where you live." Jeremy said, "We got to be prepared to go to their houses next time to do this." I said, "We're making signs with their addresses next time," which I was being actually a little hyperbolic. I wasn't actually sure that that was a good idea, but I'll play. I'll play. I'll play pretend. And then the quartering got all bent out of shape and he disavowed it. And the reason I want to talk about this is I think, and I think that I've never had a problem with the quartering. I've never had a problem with this guy. I've never spoken to him. I occasionally have watched his content. I think it's fine. Like, I have no issue with him. But I think that this wasn't so much about the issue as it was about him contributing to the pile-on against me. And the reason I say that is I want to read his tweet. Instead of dedicating efforts to be better and defeat school board members in elections, which is easy, your tactic is to carry signs around with their home addresses of school board members on to intimidate them. You never left the left. These are their tactics. Well, the thing that Jeremy, I don't think, understood is that this wasn't my tactic. I didn't come up with this. And so he and I had a little back and forth on Twitter, and I'm not going to bore everyone with the details of it because I do actually want this to be like a celebration stream and a learning stream and stuff like that. But I do feel like I need to address this since he has a lot of followers. And of course, they're saying, "Oh, Carlin is just difficult to work." I've never even talked to this person, dude. I think he did this because he legitimately thought the tactic came from me. The tactic didn't come from me. The tactic didn't come from me at all. The tactic came from the libertarians. I was implementing the tactic that they came up with. And I truly think that if he had understood that the tactic didn't come if the tactic didn't come from me, he would have had no issue with it. Because I don't think that this was about the tactic. I think this was about him smelling blood in the water of the little pile-on that's going on with, like, content creators that I can't even. And he wanted to engage in the pile-on. That's what I think this was about. And the fact of the matter is that our tactic worked. The tactics I'm using were from the libertarians. I didn't come up with these. Sorry. Just because some leftists have done something somewhere doesn't mean that I came up with leftist tactics. Sorry. I wasn't even fully on board with these tactics at first. I had to be brought around. So he and I had a little back and forth all night. And I feel like I actually won this battle. I retweeted him. I said, "Why are you afraid of making people who literally allowed pedophiles to teach children in middle school feel uncomfortable? They're public officials. Their addresses are public record. If they don't like it, they shouldn't hold public office. Hashtag make tyrants afraid again." Because what Jeremy isn't getting, What Jeremy isn't getting and what Jeremy's fans aren't getting is that this is a psychological game. Let me find. I made some good points last night that I want to make sure I'm following. I dragged him pretty bad for this too. Because I think he's wrong. And to be quite frank, I think that the only reason that he attacked me again is because he did not understand that I was implementing someone else's tactic. If he had known that Jeremy Kaufman is the person that came up with this effing tactic, he wouldn't have said shit. I'm going to say it. If he had known that it came from Jeremy effing Kaufman, he wouldn't have said a damn thing. I'm not going to speak for Jeremy. I don't want to throw Jeremy under the bus or get him involved, but like, this is Jeremy's effing idea. That's just the way it is. And I really do believe he just smelled blood in the water and he went for it. But let's see. Where's the point I wanted to make? So this is a post that one of my locals members made last night. And I think it's really pertinent to this discussion. He said, "Don't forget what the Supreme Court said in New York Times Company versus Sullivan, 1964. Thus, we consider this case against the background of a profound national commitment to the principle and debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials." School boards are public officials. They hold public office. If they are not ready to engage in open dialogue in which they may experience unpleasantly sharp attacks in their role as public officials, then they shouldn't run for public office. Brandon Russell, thank you for the super chat. Carlin, thanks for leading us on this issue. It's irritating that when something works, people complain about it. This is war. Being nice doesn't work. I'm kind of feeling the same way. I am absolutely feeling the same way this morning. It's like, here's the thing. You guys are acting as though I showed up at someone's house and I gave out I don't even know their addresses, dude. This is a psychological game. This is a head game. Let me see. This is what I was looking for. So I was asked, what's the meaning behind a sign that has someone's address on it? And again, I want to be clear because there are all sorts of like rumors going on. Carlin showed up with signs that had people's addresses on it. Carlin showed up at people's houses. Carlin is doxing people. Literally none of those things happened. Not a single one of those things happened. Not a single one. I don't know what their addresses are. I didn't give out any information. I didn't make any sign. I threatened to make a sign. A threat of a thing is not the same thing. So I was asked, what is the meaning behind the I wonder if I can make this bigger because like, there we go. That's better. That's better. I was asked, what is the meaning behind a sign with someone's address on it? And I said to show they aren't invincible and to make them feel uncomfortable, just as uncomfortable as the kids, the middle school teachers they covered up for probably felt when they were harassed. It's a head game, not one of violence. Why would we give up the psychological advantage to them? This is the big question that I want us to consider today, because again, I actually wasn't necessarily on board with this idea when I first was thinking about it. But I'm absolutely on board with this idea now. And I think that this is, listen, when you're talking about tactics that get up close to the line, and I think we can all acknowledge that this does get very close to the line. But when you're talking about tactics that get up close to the line, you don't pull them out in every circumstance. You don't use them every time, because if you use them every time, it would decrease their effectiveness. Mises Caucus is here. Tyrants have addresses. Make tyrants afraid again. Absolutely. Sean says, everyone in the peanut gallery sitting on their hands has a fabulous opinion based on cowardice. I completely agree. So you don't pull the tactics that go right up to the line out every single time, because if you do that, they're going to lose their effectiveness. People will know that you're bluffing when you don't actually show up at their house. Like, so you can't do that. But every once in a while, in cases of the most severe nature, and I think that we could all or should all be able to agree that effing pedophilia in the schools and an active effing shooter are a pretty severe circumstance. I have no problem with making bad people feel really uncomfortable. This is a psychological tactic. It is not a tactic that promotes violence in any way. No problem with it at all. As long as you're not breaking the law, as long as you're not hurting someone else, engaging in violence, as long as you're not destroying people's stuff, I think that we need to start considering tactics that are frankly close to the line. I think we need to start experimenting. Yeah, I mean, I heard about the PragerU thing. It's Prager's content. They can do with it what they want. Honestly, I kind of feel like they haven't talked to me. They haven't reached out to me. I kind of feel like it's a blessing, if I'm honest about it. Not that I regret doing that video, because I don't. My story inspired a lot of people, but I'm not upset. I know you guys are trying to make me upset about this. Like, I'm really not upset that Prager took the video down. Maybe they'll put it back up. Maybe they won't. Like, I'm not upset. I'm sorry. Like, so let's see. Let's see what else can I find to talk about. Here's what I really wanted to say. So, like, here's the thing. Here's the thing that dawned on me last night. And I'm using my Twitter because Twitter is like my stream of conscious, like, notebook. I really don't think that conservatives understand what they're fighting against. And this was made just abundantly clear to me last night. And I think we've been talking about this for a while, but I really don't think that I really think that conservatives believe that if they go to the school board meeting and give a speech and ask very nicely and say, "Please, Mr. Superintendent, stop hurting our children." I really think they believe that that's going to work. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked. There's been wins. Don't get me wrong. There's been wins here and there. But by and large, the left still controls every school in this country. They aren't going to go quietly. The left understands the games that they're playing. And so how much do we need to lose before we start experimenting with different tactics is my question. Why is it that more conservatives this morning aren't celebrating the fact that the superintendent resigned? Why are they so upset? It makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. If you care about winning, then you need to figure out what the best way to win is. And the only way to figure out what the best way to win is to experiment, is to throw stuff at the wall, is to see what sticks, to see what works. And I'm going to be blunt and say that I think being able to stop an entire school board meeting in its tracks and get the school board to run out of the room looking like they're in fear is a good thing. Because they should be afraid. They should be. What they did, they absolutely should be afraid. They should be embarrassed to show their faces too, but that's another thing. Thank you, Kimmy, for joining the channel. I appreciate that. Nick H says, treat this as war, be tactical for maximum effect. I really do believe that conservatives think that if they just show up and ask nicely that they'll win. And I have no idea what they're basing this on. Does anyone have any idea, like, what this is being based on? I'm honestly asking, I know I probably have like conservatives watching right now. If you really think that all that is going to be required to win is that you show up and ask very nicely at the school board meeting and write a sternly worded letter, what is that belief based on? If anyone has any ideas about this, I would honestly love to hear them. While I'm waiting for the chat to come in, I want to share one more idea. Why is it? Now, I personally have never engaged in violence in any way. I've never engaged in violence. I don't believe in violence. So I don't actually necessarily like make the assumption that everyone around me is ready to engage in violence. So I want to throw this question out there while you guys are thinking about why conservatives don't seem to understand this fact. Why would the school board assume that anyone with their publicly available addresses engage in violence unless they were projecting what they themselves would do with that information? They assume we're violent because they themselves are violent. Let's see. Let's see what you guys have to say. Let's see what you guys have to say about why conservatives. When has a sternly worded letter worked before? Sour Kiwi says they are trying to hold what they consider to be the moral high ground. Okay, how is that moral high ground going to feel when their kids are turned into leftist social justice warriors by the schools and they're able to implement their little Marxist utopia because the left continues to dominate every institution in America? That's not a comment directed at you, Sour Kiwi. I know you understand the deal. Yeah, Sean said conservatives think logic and fact can win. Where have they worked? I would like an example specifically of where they've worked. The belief is based on the idea that everyone in the environment understands that the bad tactics are bad and we shouldn't resort to them. Okay, tell that to the kids who were abused, and then it was covered up by the school. What do you guys care about more? Honestly. They're taught to be polite and considerate in public. It takes time to break that. You're an instigator. You are an instigator. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, New Hampshire Mises Caucus. If you live in New Hampshire, support HB 607 and HB 130. Get your kids out of government schools. Hashtag school choice. Abso-fucking-lutely. Absolutely. So, I don't know, man. I am perfectly willing to experiment with different tactics. And in this case, those different tactics happened to, you could make the argument again. I'm not going to make the argument that they were the thing that caused the superintendent to resign, because I think that there was a variety of factors causing the superintendent to resign. But the fact of the matter is, this wasn't the first school board meeting we showed up at. Do you guys want to see one of the school board speeches? Do you guys want to see the school board speech that the school board tried to shut down and is the reason that people started getting upset in the first place? Let's watch that speech, because this guy was fire. This guy was fire. Let me share screen. Chrome tab. All right, let me just make sure the sound is set up so you guys can hear the sound, and we're going to watch one of the speeches from the meeting last night. Here we go. Let me know if you can hear it.
Me and my wife moved here a year and a half ago from Salem, New Hampshire. We thought Atkinson was a great community, nice small town. I grew up in Pelham. I love the small community. I love that sense of teachers are supposed to teach and not indoctrinate our children. This days that you guys are going to. From what I understand, you guys had a shooting scare in the school recently. You guys have had a teacher accused of sexually inappropriate actions towards one of your students. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, Timberlane Atkinson Academy, where our children go to, had a lockdown, and we weren't informed. We had an email after the fact. Am I to understand that you guys can take liberty with my children, do whatever you want, to take them and do however you choose? Is the next step to me, you're gonna take our children out of school and just bring them wherever you wanna bring them and then tell us after the fact? They're gonna take them to a booster center, get them vaccinated without us knowing. Where is this all gonna end? You don't even give your teachers, our educators, the people that we want you don't give them any special common decency to speak to them and tell them what's going on, to let them know of the threats that are going on in school. You're more concerned about a piece of paper over your mouth than betting children when have allergies. That's our most important commodity in this world, is our children. I don't give a shit how much money you have. My child is the most important thing to me in my life. You can go ahead and stop me all you want. I don't care.
No, just asking you to watch your language.
I'll watch my language when I'm done.
No, you can watch it now.
What's going on right now is you guys are all intent on seizing power from us. You're supposed to work for us. You're supposed to communicate with us like the lady was saying a minute ago. The end game is that, and I spoke of this before, is I want you guys all off the board. And I don't understand how the chairperson, the person who should be listening to this and taking this in most of all, is exempt from this. All of a sudden, she's the one who takes this power and shuns us. Has one of my friends arrested, has me escorted out of this building. We're trying to speak on behalf of our children.
Tyrants have addresses.
You guys are more totalitarian than the Nazi regime in the fucking 40s.
Woo! So that was a little fiery. That was a little fiery. I'll show you another one. I'll show you Nolan's speech. Hang on, just gotta find it. Just gotta find it. Hang on. Nolan's speech was pretty great. You're gonna see a shot of his back just because I was sitting right behind him. All right. So the speech we just watched, that was before. When basically what happened is the school board cut the guy's mic. What happened after like the video cut? The school board cut the guy's mic. The guy kept talking. It was a little back and forth, and the school board was just like basically turning into like, you know, fucking pearl clutching Karens at the idea that someone would swear. And that's when I yelled, you know, we know where you live, whatever. And you could hear Bill on the tape too yelling, "Tyrants have addresses." So again, I wasn't the only effing one. And again, I completely support this, so I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But what you're going to see Nolan's speech is after. So when I yelled that, they shut down the school board meeting. They left for 5 minutes. I got yelled at and screamed at by the Moms for Liberty for daring to say something. And I talked about that in my stream last night. If you guys want to go watch that stream, that'll do a nice little recap. And so then they came back. And by the way, guys, like, listen, the school board was like, the Moms for Liberty were pissed because they were like, we're not going to get a chance to talk. The school board was always going to come back. They were always going to come back. Man. Sean says, I love the way you fearlessly seek the truth, even at the cost of followers. Yeah, fuck followers, man. Like, I just... Not fuck followers. Like, I love everyone that's here that's not hate watching me. I simply do not feel any inclination at this point to pander for followers. I want to say what I think. And I want to be able to explore information in a way that I want to explore. And if people want to come along for that ride, then that's fine. And if people don't want to come along for that ride, that's fine too. You can go watch something else. But I can't with this content game anymore. We can talk about that after if you want. But so the school board came back, and then Nolan got up and gave his speech, and we can watch that. Hang on.
Hello. I know you're all familiar with me. This is usually the part where I thank the board for letting me speak, but you do not have that privilege today. That privilege goes to the judge that allowed me to come back here, because you were not afraid to use the police as your strong arm for safety. Shame on you, lost out PD. But I'm going to put aside what I normally talk about because we have much bigger issues at hand tonight and this week. Because my daughter goes to the middle school. As far as I know, and what I've heard, there was an incident that occurred there. I've been trying to figure out what has been going on. And then in the midst of me trying to figure out what's going on, I found out about another incident before it's even made public. But really, when it comes to light, is when it's on the news. And that happened this morning. And that's just despicable. Our kids are we give our kids to you. You're supposed to provide a safe environment for our children. You're not. You're not providing a safe environment for our children. And then when stuff comes to light, you're not even letting us know. You're not notifying the parents. You're not giving us the chance to protect our kids. You are hiding stuff from us. You are hiding stuff from your employees. You are keeping stuff secret that should not be secret. You need to do better. You need to do better for the kids. You need to do better for the parents. You need to do better for the community. Because whether it's the threat of a shooting, teachers doing inappropriate stuff with kids, what is going on with this school? What is happening? You need to do better. All of you.
Woo! So that was the guy that they had arrested a month ago for not wearing a mask at the school board meeting. Bringing the fire. So guys, if you've just joined, the update from last night is that the superintendent of the schools that we've been going to the school board meetings for has resigned, effective immediately, which is pretty rad. And, you know, I just don't know what to say. Because for me, yeah, exactly. He did a great job. Jess did a great job. I don't have Jess's speech uploaded somewhere, so I can't show that right now, but Jess did a great job too. But the thing of it is listen, guys, in all seriousness, if you think that logic and reason and facts are going to win this fight, I am really sorry to break the news to you, but that is just not going to happen. Now, I think there is a place for fighting within the system that we have. And you're going to see when my book on this comes out in April, you're going to see that I do suggest some very traditional tactics. My book that comes out in April is going to be all about how to fight back against the woke nonsense in your lives. It's called Actively Unwoke. You can pre-order it now if you want on Amazon. But I do actually suggest a lot of like mainstream kind of tactics, like get elected to school board and form a parents group and things like that. But I also think that there is a place for experimenting with more aggressive tactics, or frankly, tactics that make people feel uncomfortable, because the reality is that the left is not playing by the same rule book that you guys are playing. They're not. And the rule book that they are playing by has led to them controlling every major institution in this country. That's the rule book that they're playing by. You know, I want to show Jeremy Kaufman's tweet this morning. Jeremy tweeted, "Don't do that. It's a leftist tactic. Isn't that the side that's been winning for more than 100 years?" I fully understand that it might make people feel uncomfortable to engage in tactics that go right up to the line. But the fact of the matter is that you either care about winning or you don't care about winning. If you are not going to experiment with different tactics and try to figure out what works in this situation, then the only conclusion that can be drawn is that you don't actually care about winning the war. You care about virtue signaling. Truly, let's call it what it is. It's a virtue signal. If your tactics are not focused on winning the ultimate war, then anything other than that is a virtue signal. And the rest of us will suffer for it. Enigma says, seek truth, not validation. Likes are worthless. That I absolutely agree with. I absolutely agree with. I agree logic and reason may not work, but threatening is not the way to go. You are on the same level as MSNBC following jurors during the Rittenhouse trial. How could that possibly be if I don't know where any of those school board members live? I'm sorry, guys. I absolutely refuse to engage in this hyperbolic ridiculousness that is just an excuse for the fact that you are afraid. That's what it is. You're afraid. I choose to exist in the land of reality. Reality is this. I have no idea what their addresses are. Though I would actually tend to bet that the people in that town do, because it's like one of those like small town things where like you know where people live. But I don't know what their addresses are. I didn't dox anyone. I didn't make any sign. A threat to do something is not the same as actually doing it. And if you are going to cede the psychological ground to these people, then you will lose. A threat of making a sign is not the same thing as actually making a sign, though given the backlash the right has to the idea of putting addresses on signs, I'm actually starting to think that it's a really effing good idea. But a threat of doing something is not the same thing as doing it. If you are unwilling to engage in psychological warfare, then you will lose. Every major institution in this country engages in psychological warfare every single day, to include the effing government on its own people. So no, I do not view this as the same thing as following a jury bus home. That is hyperbolic. That is not reality. And I refuse to play into this thing that, ooh, the cancel sharks are circling Carlin. Let's engage because we smell blood in the water. You are no better when you do this than fucking animals. I can't even. I cannot even. Caleb says, you totally opened up my eyes about the phoniness of these popular commentators. The vast majority are doing it for fame and love. Pandering to their audience is a shame. Yes, that is correct. That is absolutely correct. Now, not all of them are. Not all of them are. By any stretch. But by and large, I tend to think that basically I shouldn't say everyone, most of the people associated with the Blaze are really good. I think that everyone associated with that organization does a really good job, and I think that they are authentic and they think they do believe in what they're doing. There are other ones too, but that's really the biggest one that I think. Nick H says, if you always play defense, you'll never win. Yeah, I think that is exactly correct. Yeah, Mises Caucus says Rittenhouse isn't a public official. That's also correct. Those jurors are not public officials either. Those jurors didn't run for public office. They were compelled to participate in jury duty. That is a completely different scenario. Again, guys, we need to engage in the land of reality, not in the land of made up information and fantasies and rainbows and unicorns. And the reason the right does this is they are afraid. I'm sorry, they're afraid. You're allowed to make a sign. You are allowed to make a sign. Let's see. I'm just going through the chat, guys. Rittenhouse jurors aren't public officials. Kyle yeeted a couple of pedophiles. Timberlane is protecting pedophiles. Listen, man, if we cannot have a nuanced conversation about the differences in these circumstances, if people are just going to engage in hyperbole and frankly outright lies all of the time, then you're no better than the woke left. We need to start having a conversation about different tactics and where they may be appropriate and where they may not be appropriate. But for right now, the superintendent of the school resigned. And here's the question I have. Why aren't more conservatives happy about that? Hang on, I'm just going to get that up on the screen so you guys can see. Why aren't there more people celebrating this? The superintendent has resigned effective immediately. We pray that the interim super respects the Constitution, believes parents have a place in the classroom, and wants to see our children succeed. It would be a nice change of pace. Why aren't more people celebrating this? This is the result you want. Which would you rather have? Would you rather engage in a tactic that might make you feel uncomfortable, but that is not breaking the law, is not engaging in violence, is not doxing anyone, but maybe the threat is there, but is not actually doing anything wrong? Would you rather do that, or would you rather the school that your kid go to cover up that pedophile teachers are teaching middle schoolers? Which would you rather have? This isn't this isn't like the situation that we created, but this is the situation that we find ourselves in. And this is not a battle that is going to be won with logic and reason. You know, one of the things that I've been talking about is the fact that, you know, this is a battle of language. The left changes language all the time. The left redefines things all the time. The left will take any tactic that they can use to their advantage. So why on earth would we cede the psychological ground to them? This is what really brought me around to this strategy. Because it's not like, again, if we are insistent on existing in the land of reality and facts, because facts don't care about your feelings. By the way, I've watched the political right go from facts don't care about your feelings to words are violence within like the span of a year. If you think that the GOP is not like 2 steps behind the progressives, I have literally watched the political right go from facts don't care about your feelings, we make decisions rationally, not emotionally, to words are violence within a year. I have been told dozens of times in the last couple of weeks that my words are violence when I have not ever in my life committed an act of violence. I've not ever in my life called for an act of violence. But all of a sudden, my words are violence in the land of the political right because they're turning into the monster they're fighting. That's a side note. But if we are intent on winning, and this is a battle of language, this is a battle of perception, this is a battle of culture, this is a battle of how people engage with each other in society, then why on earth would we cede the psychological ground to the left? Why on earth would we deem it absolutely inappropriate to play head games? Schools play head games with your kids literally every day. They play head games with your kids literally every single day. Your workplace plays head games with you literally every single day. The government plays head games with all of us every single day. Why would you then say, "Oh, it's just I just can't. I can't possibly lower myself to play on the same playing field as my enemies are." Conservatism is progressivism driving the speed limit. Malice. Yes. Cheers to that. Sometimes the reason that we're uncomfortable with something is just because you haven't tried it before. Are you uncomfortable with the tactic because anything wrong is actually being done? Again, if we're living in the land of reality and not made up fantasy land, are you uncomfortable with the tactic because there's a legitimate wrong being perpetrated? Or are you uncomfortable with the tactic because it's not something that you have engaged in before, and therefore it makes you feel a little squishy inside? The phrase push outside your comfort zone means nothing more than doing things that you haven't done before and that you aren't used to. It is going to make anyone feel uncomfortable to engage with tactics that they have never tried before and they aren't used to. But the answer to that is not to become overly emotional. The answer to that is not to sink into your feelings and say, oh, well, I guess I'm uncomfortable and so this is bad. So it may not be bad. It's just the fact that you're uncomfortable. And then you have to say, again, is there a legitimate wrong being perpetrated here? No, there is not a legitimate wrong being perpetrated here. Literally, no one's life was put in danger. No one advocated for violence. No one showed up at anyone's house. No addresses were distributed in the threat of saying, we know your addresses are publicly available information. But what did happen is it made a bunch of really bad people really uncomfortable. And when it made really bad people really uncomfortable, they ran out of the room like the little cowards that they are. And I also think that when you make people feel uncomfortable, they start making mistakes. And they start showing overtly who they are and what they believe. And when school boards show overtly who they are and what they believe, that's when they start to create enough pain for the normies, where the normies start to go, no, 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 you're going too far now. Words are violence is an attack on the First Amendment. Your ideas are terrible if you claim your opponent's words are violence. Weak. Absolutely. I'm a First Amendment absolutist, man. I always have been. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't. That doesn't mean that I know people think that I say everything that pops into my head. I really don't. God, if I said everything that popped into my head. And I don't think people should say everything that pops into their head at any given moment. I think you need to be strategic about, like, is this actually going to cost me something? Most of the time it won't. But I'm a First Amendment absolutist. What do I think of Vosh getting banned off of Twitch? Well, if we're following, I think Vosh probably, Vosh was being an idiot. I'm sorry. The fact of the matter is that I think that in my ideal world, these tech platforms would have to abide by a First Amendment standard. That's my ideal. Okay? So in my ideal world, no one is getting deplatformed off of anything. However, that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where these tech platforms are actively looking to ban people when they say stupid shit. And Vosh said a lot of stupid shit. Now, people want to talk about me being anti-Semitic. Have you ever listened to Vosh? Have you ever listened to him? So, do I support deplatforming? No. Do I think that if you don't want to be deplatformed, you have to be smart? Yes. Ultimately, I think that we're all going to get banned off of the big tech platforms anyway. There is no doubt in my mind that I will get banned at some point. There's no doubt. But in the meantime, I'm trying to, play by the rules as much as I understand them and not engage in stuff that I think would end up leading to me getting banned sooner. And some people might call that selling out. I just call it playing smart. Vosh was purposefully using slurs that he knew got people banned before. That's the reality. He did it. He made the choice to do that. He was gloating about it, is my understanding. So if you're gonna do that, then don't be fuck around and find out, man. If you're gonna play these games, then don't be surprised when the worst happens. Brandon Russell, thank you for the super chat. Folks watching, support the fighters. I joined her locals to allow her to fight. We need more folks like Carlin. Brandon, I really appreciate that. I really do. So that's kind of where things are. I think that this was a good idea and I have no regrets. And I think that these are tactics that are worth considering when they make sense. And again, I am not advocate, although I do think there is something to be said about taking back the power in the situation. I mean, listen, I talked about this last night on the stream. It was an incredibly powerful feeling to be able to shut down an entire effing school board meeting. That was incredibly powerful. Now, I do think there's also a danger in that because the reason that we're in this situation in the first place is because the left is addicted to power, right? We've said it a million times. Critical race theory is not about race. It's about power. Everything they're doing is about gaining more political power. They gain more political power every single day. So I would caution people like that you don't want to let power go to your head. You don't want to make it your reason for being, because we've seen in the actions of the left that it can get overtly intoxicating for people. I mean, listen, man, look at the little cancel mob that continues to circle me and lie about me all over the internet. Like, they're doing that because it makes them feel powerful, because they are sad, self-conscious human beings that have low self-worth and are not fully well adjusted. And it makes them feel powerful. And so they lean into it, and it's caused them to do really bad things because it makes them feel powerful. So I would caution against ever getting addicted to power. But when you're fighting people that are addicted to power, and power is the thing that they care about, then it is absolutely a win to be able to snatch that power away from them. And I think stopping a school board meeting dead in its tracks is snatching that power away from them. School board meeting is going to come back. If they don't, they're showing their cowardice. If they do come back, then best case scenario. Worst things that happens is you have to wait for the next effing school board meeting. We have to start living in the land of reality. The hyperbolic, like, look at these situations where you think that everything is the worst possible thing that could happen is not living in reality. It's not taking a pragmatic view of like, okay, you try this, what worked about it, what didn't work about it. Nat D says, you see the rapper flip out at Tim Pool. OMG. I don't watch really any content, to be honest. I do every once in a while, but I stopped watching YouTube content like a year ago, and it's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me, to be really honest. So no, I didn't see it, but I'm glad you guys had fun with it. All right, guys, I got to wrap it up. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. I think I agree with Blob Monster. We need to grow a spine is what it boils down to. Yes. Absolutely. People need to grow a spine. We need to grow a spine. We need to have a realistic view of what we're up against. And dude, stop demonizing people who try tactics that you are too afraid to try. Because in this case, we got the result we wanted. And if you're more upset about getting the result that you wanted because you didn't like the tactics, then you are pleased at getting the result that you wanted, then you are not really in the game. I'm sorry, guys. This is not actually just for entertainment. I hope you guys really understand this. This is not actually just for entertainment. There is actually a culture war going on. There are actually real victories to be had. There is so much opportunity. But you have to treat this as something that's like, this is not a video game, right? This is real life. This is impacting real people. Josh, oh my gosh, says, Carlin, collect evidence of big tech abusing 230, team up with Crowder and Ted Cruz to display the evidence. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. That's not my fight. I do hope there is a legitimate 230 discussion, but Caleb says, you're hated for the same reason you're loved, just a no BS attitude, no matter which side it comes to. Love it. Yeah, and dude, I'm going to be honest, like, for as much as, like, people only see the hate publicly, right? What you guys don't see are the amazing emails I've been getting in the last couple weeks saying, oh my God, you made me look at something in a different way. Oh, here's another example of it. Here's another example of it. You set the house on fire to run in and save people to be called a hero. That's not reality. This is a pro-reality channel. We will only exist in the land of reality on this channel. This is made up fantasy land. That's not real. New Hampshire Mises Caucus says the last year and a half have importance to low status people, school boards. We have to let them know who's in charge, and while their government jobs exist, they're not going to get away with child abuse. Let's just all remember that the number one perpetrators of child abuse in this country are the public schools, the government schools. They are brainwashing your children from the time they enter the school. The only place that most people will experience violence in their life is in the public schools. They are programming your children while their brains are still forming to become little activists. They're engaging in social emotional learning, which is going to fuck up your children's mental health for the rest of their life. They have been masking your children for the last 2 years, which is going to lead to them not having high self-esteem, because the way that we express ourselves is directly connected to how we feel about ourselves. Don't come at me with your outrage when you are not making any effort to fight back in any real way against what the public schools are doing to millions and millions of children every single day. I'm not having it anymore. I'm done. I'm not dealing with this at all. Not in any way. I am not pandering to your outrage addiction. This is going to be a pro-reality channel. We are not going to make shit up and then pretend it's real and then respond to it as if it's real. That is not going to happen anymore. We are going to deal in the land of reality. The amount of nonsense that people make up on the internet, man. All right, guys, I gotta go. I will be back at 3 o'clock. We will be doing happy hour today at 3 o'clock. I will be back. We will be watching a woke training. I'm gonna go get some beer. I'm feeling some crafty beers today. I don't know. I'm feeling maybe some stouts, some bigger beers. We'll see. I'm gonna take a run over to the beer store, see what they have. But guys, I do hope you will join me at 3 o'clock. I don't know exactly what we're watching yet. I've got like 15 different options I have to decide. I promise I'm going to pick out a good one. But come back at 3 o'clock. We'll do happy hour together to round out this week. I hope you guys have a glorious 3 hours until the next time I see you. Take care, and we'll see you soon.